4 members, we good. Hate to interrupt this conversation. That one's wrong. Oh, okay. The official timekeeper, Kathy, said Good evening. It's time to call the March 12th, 2024 Work County Board of Education meeting to order. First order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. And I tell you, we have Kelly Goff here with us. We're going to ask Kelly to lead us in the prayer, or not the prayer, I'm sorry, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Goff. Okay, I need a motion for approval of the agenda. Okay, looking at the agenda, I see, well, actually there is. Under routine business, number 2 has been struck. We have no resignations or leaves of absences tonight. I believe besides that, it stands as is. Anybody see anything I missed?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, so with the one revision to the agenda, we have a motion to approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, we're down to recognitions, and we were supposed to have the archery team, but I know that several of those students had other things. I know Brooke was at the fundraiser for the track, so we will bring
try to
them back at a different
reschedule.
day.
So, yeah, we did have some kids that qualified for the state archery tournament we're going to recognize, but we'll reschedule and try to bring them back next time.
Okay, so we're down to information, and first person on the hit list is Carter Taylor.
Carter Taylor.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
You're fine. I wasn't goofing around getting your name wrong. I was wanting to say Carla Taylor.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay? So I thought it was a misprint, but we're glad to have you, Carter.
Understandable. I appreciate
We're glad to have you.
it. Okay, so I am here tonight to discuss the memorandum of agreement that West Virginia. Thank you.
Sorry about that. That WVU extension has in place with the Work County Board of Education. Normally this is a process that is pretty cut and dry because nothing normally changes. But this year, myself and the Extension Service Committee, which is a group of members made up from different people throughout the county that hold strategic offices that are important to the extension net. So this year we decided to add a $5,000 allotment for an office staff member. So I currently have that position posted because we have an amount extra that is equal to about $5,000, which will allow us to hire an office secretary for 2 days a week for about 5.5 months. So that person will come on hopefully April area, which will then help with the workload coming into our busy season, which is June, July, and August with our camp, fair, and all of the other camps and fairs that I will be assisting with throughout the summertime. The reason we ask for this amount is the $5,000 that we currently have is not something that it is an extra allotment that has built up over time from other donations from generous boards. So what we're asking is to renew that amount so we can continue that. And for this year, the goal with that would be to extend that contract to that person, either to extend their days per week to 3 or 4 days a week, or to extend that 5.5 month period, possibly to a month, so we can continue to have that person on staff and to help with day-to-day activities. So some of the things that that person will be helping with, one of the most important is, of course, helping get ready and work our residential camp. Last year we had, I think it was 83 members present, and that is something that I am at the entire week, so our office had to close. So this person would help cover me when I'm at fair or when I'm at camp, and would help keep the office open, help answer phones, help work on registrations or whatever is still rolling in at that time. And that would really help. Last year, while I was at camp, all of my calls were, at that time, the phone was out, and if anybody was trying to reach me, I apologize. But all of my phone calls came through my cell phone. So I was sitting at camp lots of times and would have to take calls while I was at camp trying to coordinate and work with the kids. So that it took time away from the kids. And that's kind of our goal for this position, is to help cover the office and to help, me work with the kids more. Another thing about this position is I am currently, the way it is written in my contract, I'm 25% in Wood County. And part of that is to pay them back for what they've done in Work County since they covered the county for on and off for a couple years. So that does take me out of the office about 1 day a week. So that is kind of why we're hoping to hire this person in at 2 days a week, so they can cover 1 day that I'm out. And then if I'm not called out another day to do something else, we can have that day to sit together and I can help them learn of the things that have to be done in the office, and then we can also work together on some of the bigger projects that are coming up. So that's kind of our reasoning. Is there any questions from anybody or anything that you all would like answered?
Carter, I know that the board, through our levy, that we
Yes.
give money. So you're not talking about that money, you're talking about an additional $5,000.
Yes. When we first discussed this, we talked about it before our actual meeting and before we decided. So I put a call in to try to figure out where we were on our levy, and I know that I think we're in year 2 of a 5-year levy, I believe.
Yeah.
So I know that there are a couple years before the levy is renewed. So this would be out of levy funds that we are asking for, and I'm not sure if that is an option, but we decided to at least, it's worth the try to ask and see if that is an option.
Okay. The levy, the money in the levies that are dedicated to 4-H, I forget, Karen, do you off the top of your head remember that amount? $8,000 that go to the extension, 4-H extension, our levy. Those are guaranteed.
Yes.
For the length of the levy. So what I hear you're asking, I just want to be sure I'm hearing it
Yes.
correctly.
And-
What you're asking is for $5,000 above the $8,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Currently, it sits at 10,000. I'm not sure where the other 2,000 comes from, but I do have a copy of the current MOA.
Well,
that
and in memory, in recent years that I have been here, I believe the MOU has been at the $10,000
Right.
mark.
Right, but 8
Um,
comes from the levy and 2 comes from, general fund or,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Okay.
yes, this would be an increase from
So
10,000
from the
to
10,
15.
it'll go to 15.
Yes, that is
Okay.
what we are asking.
Okay, okay. I'll let other board members ask questions in a minute, but I will say that what will have to happen, okay, is that, because that is a budget item, what will
Yeah.
happen is that you'll need to get that to Mr. McCowan, and him and Mrs. Cummins will sit down and figure it out, and then they'll bring
An action item.
an
back
action
at
to
a
us
future
if we
board
can
meeting.
do it or for discussion, because we can't act upon it tonight because
Yes,
there's no,
I was just
So,
coming
yeah,
to,
that was my intention, to bring this to you as information, because there's a change for you to be able to ask questions,
Yeah.
what that is, and for Mr. Taylor to introduce himself, since he is our new
Yes,
extension
yeah.
agent, and make the board members familiar with who he is in his role.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I will go back to that. It might be nice for some of you to know me. So, hi, my name is Carter Taylor, Jonathan Carter Taylor. It depends on how you call me. As long as you don't call me late for dinner, I'm fine. So, I grew up in Jackson County originally. I went to West Virginia University, and I am now the Work County 4-H program coordinator. So I am hired by West Virginia University to come and disperse the 4-H programming within Work County.
Yeah, I had met Mr. Carter before. We actually had our pictures taken together.
Yeah, yes, we did.
Okay, any other questions, board members?
Yeah, so the 5,000, I just want to make sure I understood what you were explaining
Yes.
to us. You already have a pot of 5,000, and with this additional 5, you would be at 10, so that you could have this person on staff longer?
For this year, yes.
this year,
Yes. Next year, this would become kind of that original 5,000 if that is not made up by another kind of external donation
Okay.
or coverage. So this is, for this year at least, it would help extend. And then next year, we could use that to possibly
Okay.
renew. And there's always a possibility, depending on funds, we could work to extend that person on to the next year. But this would kind of take over that. Yes.
Any other questions, board members?
You mentioned that 25% of your time is in another county.
Yes.
So does the other county take part of the budget also? They take 25% of the budget?
They do not. This is the reasoning behind this, and it's really, it doesn't end up being 25%, but that's the way it's written into my contract. I end up being there about 1 day a week to assist them because they have assisted in the past where nobody has been in my position or in the county through extension so they come and cover camps, they come and cover fair, they help plan all these activities, and it is kind of a payback. It is a payback to them because they were not getting funded by the Work County money either. So that is kind of how it has been. It's been written to assist with that position, and that was discussed in my Extension Service Committee when I was hired. So that's kind of how it was brought to be.
But that money isn't the Work County money. That's the money from, the money that pays your salary, whether it's Work County or Wood County, is from extension.
Yeah, it
It's
comes from
not
extension. Yes,
It's not
yes.
from any of the 10,000 that we as the board give.
Right, we're talking about money paid, additional money that would come out of the levy?
Well, not
I think the
necessarily.
levy money is set, so at $8,000. So the difference between those two would have to come out of local county funds.
Some local, but that money would go to the person that works in
Yes.
Work County.
Yes,
It
that
wouldn't-
person would be strictly Work County.
Right.
This extra $5,000 would be to strictly hire somebody 2 days a week for Work County, and that would help cover me it would help allow me to do farm checks and go out to assist members throughout the day also. So I could schedule those, because that's something that 4-H has done or should do. They should go out and kind of work with 4-H members and projects, and that is something that I have been reaching out to people to do, and a couple of them have invited me, and we've tried to work on that a little bit here and there. But it's a stretch to get that coverage in the office to be able to go out and do that. Or also, I do have a small portion of ag within my position because I'm the sole person
Right.
in the office here. Most counties have at least a 4-H agent and employee, and then an ag employee from the university to cover kind of those agricultural problems. So that is something, it is a very, very small part of what I do because my main portion is 4-H, but it is a small portion. So if I get a call from somebody that needs me to come out and walk their pastures with them and help them learn about pasture management, or I get questions about their livestock, that is something that to this point I haven't been able to do. But it is something that I would love to extend to the community if the option was given.
I know, Mr. Lowe, I think you sit on that committee, don't you? Yes. Okay. On the extension committee?
Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions? So Carter, you'll get that stuff if you haven't already.
Yes, yes.
To Mr. McCowan, and him and Mrs. Cummins will get that figured out, see what we can do to help you, and
Yeah,
bring it
anything
back.
is appreciated.
And what's your timeline? Might not be our timeline, but what's your
Well,
timeline?
Like I said, this position is currently being hired as a temporary position
Okay.
for 5.5 months. So it'll be a little over $5,000, but there's a little bit of area we can wiggle with some money that is currently in Morgantown that we can use to help finish off that 5.5 months. So the goal, if it doesn't come through by the end of that 5.5 months, that's perfectly fine. What will happen is we will just, as the next year rolls around, we will just rehire that
Okay.
person if
This
possible.
isn't something in the next,
No.
Week set, okay.
No. The position is already posted.
okay.
Hoping to get some individuals to apply. If anybody knows anybody, it will be going on to the Work County Extension Facebook page this week. So if you know anybody that is interested in that office staff type position, and it is 15 hours a week, and we're hiring at, I think it was $15 an hour. Don't quote me 100% on that. So it is it's a part-time position. So we already have the money to cover the next 5.5 months.
Okay.
So no, it's not, no, I would not ask for an immediate,
That would be okay, it just might be hard to do. But I know, we'll be moving into budgets and stuff
Yes.
here real quick,
Yeah.
so that sort of will fall in line with that pretty well.
yes.
Okay.
All right.
Hey,
Thank you for
Dylan, we're
coming
glad
out
to
tonight.
have you in the county, because the county went for a while,
Yes.
After
and
Cali, we went, it was sort of dry, so
Yeah, and
we're
it
glad
can-
to have you here.
It can be tough.
Yeah.
And I appreciate being here. I really do. The kids in this county are fantastic.
Okay. We think so.
They definitely are.
Thank you, Carter, appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank
Do you
you.
have stuff you want? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Kelly Goff, and she's going to talk to us about nursing services in Work County schools.
Back. Good evening, Mr. McCown and board members. Many of you know my name is Kelly Goff, and I am our school nurse here in Work County, at Work County Schools. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak this evening. I wanted the chance to speak tonight in regards to the healthcare services I provide at our schools, as well as present a few concerns that I have. In 2010, I ended my last semester of nursing school with a rural rotation shadowing Elaine Reinhart. Many of you probably remember her, the school nurse here in Work County at the time. Elaine instilled a passion and a love for school nursing within me, and I consider it a true dream and blessing to now be our school nurse all of these years later. As you know, I am the sole school nurse across all three of our schools. I'm primarily based at the primary and middle school, but also travel to the high school multiple times a day and as needed for daily medication administration, student and or staff illness, and emergencies. During the 2022-2023 school year, I saw approximately 8,100 students in the 180 school days we were in school across all three schools. Each one of these encounters requires thorough documentation of the visit, as well as contacting a parent and or guardian regarding their student's health, my treatment that I provided, and any follow-up care if needed. I contact each parent and or guardian as I feel honesty and communication are key in establishing trust when providing services to our students. In our current school year, I am already set to surpass that number, and I'm looking at potentially 10,000 visits for this school year alone. Shortly, Mrs. Hickman will hand out a handout that I provided that shows my current daily schedule, which involves administration of daily prescribed medications and the care that I administer to students with chronic diseases and diabetes. On top of these interactions, which are daily, I am seeing on average between 30 and 40 students for various illnesses and injuries throughout my day as well. The second handout that is attached to the first handout shows a randomly selected but redacted log of a single day's visits from ill or injured students. This log does not include the daily schedule that you were given that will be on the first page. On a typical day, I have students sitting at my office at 7:45, and there are many days that I have students with me continually until the bell rings for dismissal at 3:15. I have not had a lunch break in 2 years and will usually stay after school for 2 to 3 hours, documenting the day's visits, answering emails, contacting parents or guardians, etc. I also usually spend an hour in the mornings before school finishing up my documentation from the previous day and preparing for the day ahead. On multiple occasions, I have been unable to administer medications or see ill students at the high school due to having emergencies or ill students at other schools. This is a disservice to our students and creates issues in providing available health care to those who need it at our schools. The Wellness Center and staff have been a tremendous help to me in that they are able to see my students who need more advanced medical services due to illness. They also respond to emergency situations with me and assist me in providing care and are such a fantastic asset to our school and our community. I have said all this evening to respectfully ask for additional help in my office. We are currently one of the only school systems in the state of West Virginia to employ a single school nurse between our schools. With my current schedule, I am unable to do any health screenings or any type of health education with our students due to the volume of students I see on a daily basis. I come to you, the board members, and Mr. McCown this evening asking that you consider creating another healthcare position in our schools, not only to help me, but to help aid in the ever-growing health needs of our students. I had previously spoken with Mr. McCown and discussed the option of possibly employing a licensed practical nurse to work alongside me. A licensed practical nurse is able to help administer medications, complete documentation, as well as triage students and staff as they arrive to my office. Many smaller schools utilize licensed practical nurses, and I have given him contact information of school districts who utilize LPNs in their daily functions. I feel I am spread too thin most days and ultimately cannot personally or professionally continue as the single healthcare provider to our schools without some assistance. I truly appreciate your time and concern in the matter as we continue to care for our students, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.
Okay, Kelly, so what you're saying, what you would like to see happen is for the board to authorize and approve an LPN.
Yes.
Okay, not an RN, as you're an RN, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
but an LPN.
Which would be a service position.
Yeah.
Right. But, and that is, yes, thank you, Mr. Pound. That is a service position, not a professional. Yeah, I can speak for myself. I know, whenever I'm in the schools, I mean, you're just always, I mean, I think I can use that word,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
Have a student in there with you,
Yes.
or 2 or 3 waiting for you,
Yes.
or a parent on telephone,
Yes.
and maybe all 3 at the same time.
Yes. All the above.
Usually all 3 at
Yes.
the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we truly, I do. I understand how booked it is, okay? And,
Yes.
and we come through COVID there and things haven't, as far as the
Right.
things you're dealing with, haven't improved since that
Right.
time, so.
I would just like to reiterate, the dynamic of the workload has changed. I think we've
Yeah.
got some littles that are severe diabetic that have needs that we didn't see and we didn't have years ago. And these students have added and compounded the workload because when that alarm goes off that you've got a diabetic child having an emergency, that takes your priority. And I think we commend you for the job that you are doing.
Thanks.
And we appreciate you coming and sharing information with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Any other board members, questions?
Yeah, I just got one for my own use. Now, do you have offices in the schools? Or
I do.
Are you part of the Wellness Center? Or?
No, I'm not part of the
Okay.
Wellness Center. I actually have an office in the middle school office and then one in the high school
Yeah.
office.
So how do you divide it up? You just
So it's based off of need. I know, it's kind of complicated.
Yeah, so if this LPN comes, would you both kind of try
Yeah.
to be at different places, or?
If possible, yeah, that would, I think he could complete medications at the high school. I do a lot of blood pressure checks at the high school. I have a lot of high school kids that require have blood pressure problems, need blood pressure checks every day, and that's something that licensed practical nurse could
Right.
perform.
So right now, though, you divide your days up, if you can, between
Yes.
the two?
If you can.
And I will say my day at the high school is very limited because I'm needed primary, middle school.
Right.
Yeah. And there are some days I don't make it to the high school,
Thank
depending on
you,
the
I
day.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
With the amount of students you see, are you seeing students that have to be out of the class waiting?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
So if we were to hire the LPN, how much increase in those students' classroom time do you think we would make? Because from what you're describing,
Right.
I imagine there's several students who are out of the classroom because you can't see them quick enough.
Right. Yep. Yes. I mean, it would increase their class time exponentially.
Or how fast they got sent home,
Right.
just the whole.
Or contacting
So
parents.
there are times
Yeah.
that they're stacked up 6 or 8 or
Yes.
more deep.
Oh,
waiting.
yeah.
And then the 5 students, 60 to 5 students are waiting for 60.
Yes.
Are out of the classroom, if you had an LPN, they could be.
Triage
taken care of
them.
and
Right.
back in the classroom sooner.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
I have to say, I didn't realize you made multiple trips between the schools
Yes.
in one day.
Yes.
You know, I knew we're trying to be both places,
Yes.
in a day, but I
Yes.
did not realize there were multiple, so.
Yes.
And I know that this year you've dealt with some really serious
Yeah.
issues.
Some things that
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, real serious
very,
issues.
very emergent,
Yes,
So
required surgical intervention.
yes.
are you responsible for all medications that the kids are supposed to take? Does
Yes.
that go to you, and then you're the one?
Yes. And thankfully, you know, if I happen to be somewhere in emergency, Julie Purdue's wonderful to help administer medicines. Mrs. Hickman, Mrs. Harris, wonderful, and will step in and administer medicines for me if needed. Mrs. Smith, Miss Richards at the primary center, Mrs. Emerson.
Is it still that in order to administer medicines that you have to be trained? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Trained and signed off to administer. But still, they don't, those people that aren't medical professionals sometimes don't realize what,
Yeah.
where you do. Yeah. Kelly, again, we're getting ready to do budget, and we're getting ready to look at staffing, and I can speak for myself. I would wholeheartedly support bringing an LPN in. Somebody asked me the other day, our biggest needs in the county as far as staffing, and nursing was number one, another person to help with the health services. Our kids
Thank you.
are not getting healthier, are they?
No.
No,
No.
no.
Unfortunately.
Okay, we'll leave this one with Mr. McCowan again and Mrs. Cummins.
All right.
And they will bring back a recommendation to us.
Okay.
But we support what you're after.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, any other questions? I sort of took over there. Any other questions for Kelly? No? Okay, now we have Work County Middle School winter benchmark data, and I think I saw Gail back there somewhere. She was hiding.
Supporting her. All right. So, Ms. Harris and I are here this evening to share our benchmark data. We are actually getting ready to take our next benchmark. So we're getting ready to have new data, but this will kind of tide you over here for a little bit. We're going to start with last year's summative assessment, how we ended our school year, because I think that's really important. Overall, out of 146 middle schools last year, our middle school was 35th in the state. So I feel like that's something to be proud of. Actually, it's been released, and I was at a football game with my son, and a principal from a neighboring county stopped me to make sure that I knew that. So then when I got home, he had emailed me all this data, and I was emailing Mr. McCowan, and I thought that was pretty exciting. So in math, well, overall, we were 7th out of 55 counties, too. So I thought that was a great stat. I just wanted to throw that out there. And then our best test results were in math last year. Overall, we were 5th out of all middle. That's pretty impressive to me. And this doesn't show our 5th grade because they do the middle school judgment on 6th through 8, because most middle schools are 6th through 8. But our 5th graders were up there as well. So overall, we were pretty pleased with those scores. And I'd like to point out the fact that we ended on this, and then our kids always come back and take the benchmark, and we're like, what? What happened over the summer? But it is a different type of test. Our kids know how iReady works. We are dealing with middle schoolers, so they understand how you take that test results in the kind of lessons you're going to get for your iReady lessons. So the worse I do, the easier my lessons are going to be. So just keep that in mind, as, you know, it's very hard with middle schoolers because they don't yet see, they're past the I want to please everybody stage, and they don't yet see the, oh, this is important for my future stage. We are a special breed. I love them. They're my favorite, but they are a little different than some. So just to start out this school year, right now we have 262 students. We actually lost one today, but we have a couple that have enrollment packets that we may be getting. So right now our 5th grade class is our smallest, and our 7th grade class is still our biggest at 74. Of our 262 students, we do have 79 special education students, which is about 30% of our students. And then just wanted to point out, I still have a lot of vacancies at the middle school, most of which are special ed. I have 3 special ed positions being filled by full-time substitutes, 2 retired teachers, Mrs. Wendlekin and Mrs. Williams, who continue to save us year after year by filling our positions, but they have both assured me this is their last year of working full-time. And then Mrs. Bunch is filling in one of my special ed positions as well. My counselor left to go to Project Aware, and Mrs. Miko Cox and Mrs. McVeigh are filling that for us. Since it's Mrs. Miko Cox's first year retirement, she can only work so many days. And then my TIS took a job with Fiscal Services, so Elizabeth Dotson is helping fill that gap because they do teach STEM classes and provide a lot of support during testing season. And my entire 5th grade team is brand new this year as well. So Mrs. Romage, Mrs. Voyers, and Dr. Rasmussen are all brand new to our school and our county as full-time employees. So it has been a year of transition. Those aren't the only staff that we hired, but these are the big ones that I wanted to share with you. My other 2 special ed positions, we did hire Mr. Newberry this year, and then Mr. Kirby is my most senior special educator this is his 3rd year. So we started our fall benchmark. The scores for iReady are a little different than the state delivers them. So just looking at that, 32% of our students at the beginning of the year were at above grade level in reading, 20% were just 1 grade below, and 49% of my students were more than 2 grade levels below. Keeping in mind that 30% of my population is special ed, so just you can kind of match that up with the numbers just a bit. And then when we went through the winter benchmark, all of those did improve. Actually, the top one stayed right about the same, but this is the chart that I think makes more sense because you can see where you're moving students. The goal is to move the students out of the red towards the green, so you always want your numbers moving to the left. So in the fall, where we only had 30 students at or above grade level, we had 48, which is a significant jump for our numbers. And then we, some of those that moved to the bright green came from that early on green. So you'll see there is a difference there where we went down in that section, which is because they moved more to the left. So I really ask my staff to focus on the far left and the far right to really see where your kids are moving. So did we move some into the green, and did we move some out of the red, which is 3 or more grade levels below? So we were able to do both of that, and we also continued to trend them towards the left, which is what our goal is each time. Our math scores, we only started the year after we had those fantastic scores on the state assessment. Only 19% of our kids tested at or above grade level in math. And then 35% were just 1 grade level below, and 45% were more than 2 grade levels below. That increased significantly for our winter benchmark in math, taking us up to 31% at or above grade level. They do get tired of those easy lessons about halfway through the first 9 weeks and realize they made a bad decision, and they often do work much harder on the second benchmark. we are able to tell on iReady. I know we've talked about iReady for years, but if a student flies through the test, it does flag them, and we can make them retake it. iReady doesn't like for you to make students retake the test a lot. Even if you know Johnny is definitely not on that level, he needs to retake it, they do not encourage having kids retest, even if you know their abilities. And sometimes, you know, those natural consequences of lessons that are boring and childish do help. So looking at the numbers here, we increased 6 to above grade level, and then our number went down by 20 on the far right. One thing I also would like to point out is our math scores were the best, and some of our students are at a point where they can't move. They can't get any higher. They're two grade levels above. I mean, 20 kids working at or above grade level is a good number, but some of those kids are so far above grade level now, they've maxed out on iReady. So that's also something to kind of keep in mind there. So when you look at growth, I know the Primary Center always talks about their typical growth and their stretch growth. Typical growth is what we want to see in a school year. It's going to be different for every student, and their stretch growth will be different for every student. Stretch growth is very difficult to achieve. Only about 25 to 35% of your students each year are really going to hit that number, because stretch growth is for those students who are way behind and they've got to grow more than anyone else to try to catch back up to grade level. So when you look at each grade level, our students are improving in reading, and it can show you how many are meeting that typical growth. Now remember, this benchmark was given in December, so we've grown a lot from December to March, and we're hoping to see that next week. And then our amount of students meeting that stretch growth is highest in the 5th grade at 16%. And then we have a similar chart for math. Once again, you get up to 8th grade is where a lot of our students max out on our lessons. So Mr. McCowan brought in the ALEX program for us. So once they finish iReady on math, they move to a different program that is more of a high school level program, so we can challenge them that way. For reading, we don't have an ALEX type program for them yet. So our students are given individual kind of challenging assignments for them. So we might have them, they go pick a book, and then they have to create something. They like to do movie trailers or something that's going to make me want to read that book. We try to make it fun and interesting for them. But we do have quite a few, not just 8th graders this year. We actually have some 6th graders maxed out in reading that are doing those types of activities. So we are pleased with the typical growth, that our students are improving. Our stretch growth is not so great in math. That is where our scores are better, though. So our next steps are that we're going to take our next benchmark next week, and then we're going to complete our GSA. So we do have a lot of testing at the middle school. Our 8th graders take the Golden Horseshoe. This year our 8th graders had to take the NAEP test. And then we're the only school where all 4 grades are testing for the GSA. So we've already completed our writing assessment. We have 1 student left to finish that's been absent. Our 5th and 8th graders will take the science test on April 30th. And then our entire school will test in math on May the 7th and ELA reading on May the 8th. So that's our numbers. I like to keep it short and sweet.
Questions of Mrs. Hickman?
Or Ms. Harris. I do
Or
appreciate
Ms.
Ms. Harris
Harris, I'm
coming.
sorry. Questions?
Is there any way, I don't know how to ask this, but I'll just put it straight out. Way you can take the IEP kids out of that to where you know where you...
So we have subgroups created, so we can see their scores compared to everyone else's. Our numbers, I mean, your numbers always look better if you take out special education
Right.
students, but we do that for our CSI purposes. When we're checking just our special ed kids, we can group them to see them.
Right. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Also, knowing middle school kids, you have problems with them saying, well, if I do better, my work will get harder, so I don't want to.
Oh, absolutely. They'll look me right in the eye and say that.
Yeah, well, I've heard that too. So I
Yeah.
just was curious. Sometimes the testing isn't actually where they're actually at.
Right, it's not a reflection. So I feel like the best reflection for our students at the middle school level, usually a combination of the state data and what my teachers tell me, because our students do take this state testing seriously, because for some of them, it might be that they're really struggling in school and their parents are concerned and they got to have that final shot to prove that they do know what they're doing. So I feel like we're in a better place with iReady, because this year we set in some new protocol that we do. So before we take the benchmark, once those results come back, and then before the next one, the teachers sit down with the students and they set their own goals of how do you want to perform on this? Do you want to meet your goal and make it an attainable goal? And the kids have responded pretty well to that.
I was impressed with the ranking of your classes. That's very good.
Yes, it's fun to hear that when you're out and about and
Yeah.
some other principal stops you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. McCown had just got that. That guy was
The day.
hot off the press
day-
with it.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
The very day it was released.
Yes, so that was good.
So you mentioned 30% approximately special ed students, which to me seems really high, but I don't,
It's
what's
high.
a typical, what would you normally see?
That is probably the highest we've ever had. So for example, in a classroom, if I have a classroom of students, I can only have 30% of my students can be special ed without me having a special ed teacher in there with me. So to put it in perspective, we're getting to the point where it's becoming very difficult to make our schedule work without having co-teachers in almost every room.
Yeah, somewhere around 15, Carla would probably help with this, 15, 17%
Which
is
is a more reasonable,
what you look
what you
for.
would expect.
Yeah.
And the fourth grade class, I think, is quite large. The one that we're getting has quite a bit of special education students in it, and the class we're losing to the high school is not as many. Yeah, they have a few, but I think we're getting more than we're advancing. Yeah, and they work hard. I mean, those students are very hard workers. So I don't want to discredit all of the effort that they're putting into it at all. All of our students try really hard to please us. At times they don't want to be acknowledged for trying to please us, but deep down they want to perform really well, and I feel they're at that age where testing is just hard.
Yeah,
You have a middle schooler?
I know.
I have a middle schooler. I'd much rather work with them at school than take them home.
I have a college student that figured out in kindergarten that if you just don't test well, it's easy.
Yes,
So, yeah, by middle school, they've definitely figured that out.
yes, they're very smart. But we do have great kids. I'm very proud of my kids. Their behavior, they're respectful. I have substitutes that like to work in our building because they love our kids. Our kids get bragged on everywhere they go. So I am pleased with that.
Other questions?
So, is there anything that would allow you to get more students on grade level, more resources, changes in policies, anything that we can give or do differently that will allow a greater number of our students?
I mean, our biggest thing is staffing. We have the positions out there and we can't fill them with qualified folks. So, I mean, we have teachers working their very hardest and having to learn on the fly because they're not specifically trained in special ed. And I think, if you can find me some certified teachers, that would be fabulous.
So it's slots that aren't filled that we are trying to hire for.
Yeah, that's a big part of it because I'm asking retired teachers who've been retired for 15 years now to come in and work full time. And they're doing a great job. They're reaching these kids with, they'll bring out some old school tricks that we used when I was a student to try anything. And I feel like, Mrs. Mego Cox was always good at supporting us. Mrs. Brown is good at supporting us. I think we have access to resources. It's that manpower and having enough time in your day to reach every single student. Because you're looking at every 10 kids, 3 of them are below grade level, basically.
Is there anything that you can think of that would help us with?
Give us all raises. I try to steal from other counties. I am not ashamed to try to steal from other places. I talk about what a great place it is to work, and when we have hired people from other counties, they're going back and telling their buddies in those counties, come work with me, we love it here. So I think it's just there's just not qualified applicants out there. People aren't going into teaching. It's not a very respected position to be in right now. it's not, the pay is definitely not lucrative. So it's just a hard,
Do you think a supplement or a higher supplement is exact?
I would love to give a supplement to my special educators because they have tons of paperwork. But I'd love to give supplements to everyone, but I don't know if that's the answer. But I'd try anything to fill my positions.
Yeah.
What kind of supplement do you think it would take to attract the teachers to fill the positions that will give us better results?
I really don't have an answer for that, because if you're in teaching, you're not in it for the money, but, because we don't lose people to other teaching jobs. We lose them to government jobs or work from home and make more money. So I'm not sure. Mr. Metz, you have any idea on a number, or Mr. McCown? I have no idea.
I think that's probably a whole different
Yeah.
Yeah, because
It's
conversation.
not,
We essentially have a supplement that's still not, a larger supplement that's still not fixed.
correct. There are
I
very
think-
few people going into special ed certification right now.
Yeah, and students are looking at what is my student loan cost going to be when I graduate, and what is my starting salary as a teacher going to be, and they're crunching the numbers, and unless they're called and have a calling to do that and are passionate, they're choosing other professions.
And I think that your special educators, there's a lot of paperwork that goes with that job, a lot of paperwork, a lot of time that you don't have in your day. So they work on a lot of stuff. So if I can teach social studies or math or science and I don't have that extra paperwork, those jobs are open too. There's just openings. You can pick what you want to teach. It used to be when I started teaching, if you really wanted to get a job, you would get your special ed certification so you could get a foot in the door. Nobody has to do that anymore.
You know, it might,
Get that certification accountable.
Well, now you can take a praxis. So actually, I have some staff members who are interested in taking the praxis to become special ed certified because they would like to teach their own section, of self-contained, like, so 8th grade math, Mrs. Stays would like to teach that special ed class of math too, because she's still responsible for those standards. We're teaching the same standards we're teaching every other 8th grader. So we have some teachers that are interested in pursuing that have expressed interest, because it's not necessarily that you have to go back to college anymore and get trained. You can take praxis tests to get extra certifications.
So I will give Gail's staff some credit for outside-of-the-box thinking. That's a very novel and good idea. And I'll also say, if you are out there, I know some surrounding counties are riffing a large number of teachers. So if you are in one of those counties or you have family in one of those counties and you are getting riffed, we have vacancies. So look online and apply.
and it might get better here in a year or two, because I'm teaching the very first course this semester that teachers take, pre-service teachers take for special ed, and I have 26 students
That's
in that
promising.
very first course, largest amount of students I've ever had in that course. Usually I have 7 or 8, so who knows? But I also, as you know, the thing about taking the praxis, Jessica Fays could take the praxis and teach those students and do a tremendous job. But taking the praxis doesn't always give those people the skills they need. There's something to be said of going through the academia, going through the pedagogy of what it takes to teach a special ed student. And those people who are taking the praxis are missing that.
I agree with that 100%.
Jessica Fays would have no trouble because she's a master teacher.
Well, and that would be, she's not hired as a special educator, but she could agree to teach her content.
Right.
We couldn't ask her to go teach 6th grade English without transferring her or changing her job, things like that. So this would totally be a favor to us to help our schedule work and to let her get her hands on all kids.
And if that was to happen, would you think those students would be better?
Oh, yeah.
I think because of she's an expert in her content,
Yeah.
that you would undoubtedly do better. Not taking anything away from the special educators who are teaching that, but yeah, you'll become an expert in your content when you're at the middle school level.
And the reason I'm asking this is because although our numbers are good compared to other schools, I don't think they're good enough when we have so many students that aren't on grade level.
I agree with you.
So if there's anything that we can do, if this is a possible solution, something that would bring one student, bring two students, bring three students that weren't at grade level to at grade level, then maybe that's something that we can look into. We can help improve our own educators. If we can't find something else, improve what we have to make it better for the students.
I think anytime we can support the staff we have and show them that respect and that anything that we can do to help you get better at your job, I mean, that's how you retain your staff and you keep that morale high. So I think anything like that's a great idea.
So, I'm just thinking now out loud, but we have, what, special education staff, and is it math, that have like a 3-year bump in their pay? like
And
3
special
years
ed.
service?
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe she's not a great example because she probably already has that.
Right.
But if one of our English teachers took the praxis, got certified to teach it, would they get the bump or no because they're not a special
You have to
ed?
teach it as so much percentage of your day.
Yeah,
So they would get a
40, I think 40%.
prorated amount.
Yeah. I'm not sure the special ed percentage, like, I know math has to teach it a certain percentage of the day. I assume they're the same.
One has to be 100% and the other
Okay.
is like so much.
Yeah.
So that might not really, because I was trying to think if that would even be sort of a supplement, but not really.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like.
Yeah, the state is, I mean, I think the state recognizes that that is an issue because they are
Right.
bumping those salaries 3 times, okay? You know, for those people, I tell the students I have, you go in special ed and you go in as far as pay, just pay, you know, as a person that's been there for 3 years, so, yeah.
Yeah, every little bit helps.
But I know this doesn't help anything whatsoever, but we're still better than most counties around us.
Agreed.
I mean, there's counties that have 0 certified, Carla's shaking her head, she knows what I'm saying, 0 certified special ed teachers in their county.
And our, Mr. McCowan and Carla have been great with each month. We're having monthly special ed meetings. We're pulling subs in for a half day, and they're asking, Dina Swain comes in, and she works with them and helps them with anything that, you know, we need to do. A couple of our substitute special ed folks, they're not doing the IEPs and that paperwork. I mean, they're strictly teaching, so that means other people are picking up that slack. So we have had all kinds of support. Everybody, if I ask for something, you know, I usually get that as far as that goes for support for my teachers. So I'm thrilled with that. I appreciate that very much. Trying to make our school even better. It's just something that it's a grind that you consistently have to work at and try new things and be willing to try new things. And I feel like my staff is excellent at that. They're willing to jump on board anything we throw at them. And we try to give what we can, you know. And Ms. Harris and I talked about this, you know, tonight. Lots of times they bring teachers for this presentation. Well, I can't compensate them for coming tonight. I can't compensate them for field trips that we get up at 5 a.m. and we work till 10 p.m. They don't get any extra pay or any comp time. So we try to do things like this on our own and let them off the hook, so to speak. So we give what we can to them and just try to show support. And I feel like in return for that, my staff is very accommodating, very willing to try new things and take whatever training we throw their way, or if somebody has an idea, we jump on it.
So Mr. Metz spurred a thought. I don't know how many counties out there have 100% fully certified secondary math teachers in every position, but we do.
Yeah.
And over half of the secondary math teachers in the state is filled with an uncertified person. So we're fortunate.
It doesn't help the day-to-day situation, but big picture, you know, it's like we're doing something that's almost right anyway. So.
And our students are not feeling completely frustrated all the time. Our teachers are very receptive to, hey, let's try this with them. I don't want my kids coming and just constantly struggling, and we're trying to throw things at them that they can't do. So, you know, Mrs. Winokin and Mrs. Williams have been subbing at the middle school for the last maybe 4 or 5 years at the rate we're going. And they teach us all something new every single year that they have experience with, and we love it. And the rule at the middle school is just, you know, if they say, hey, can I run to the bank on my lunch? You can, because you're retired. You can do what you want. That's my rule. So you got to take care of these ladies that are taking care of you.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sandy, for coming out. You make us proud. Okay, we're down to delegations, and there are no delegations this evening, so we're to the first public hearing for the 24-25 school calendar. So how we're going to do this is let, Carla, are you doing this one? Okay. Carla's going to give a presentation, then we will recess for a public hearing, and then come back to active session.
I believe you should all have a copy of A, B, C, and D calendars. Yes? So you're not going to be able to read what is on the board when I shoot it up there, but you'll have it in your hands.
It's on the,
No, I don't,
it's on your, it was in the
Well-
agenda.
it was in the agenda, in the cop,
In your electronic
yeah, I
version.
couldn't read it there
Sorry.
either. I was hoping I'd get a paper handout, but anyway.
I can pass this set around if that helps.
No, that's fine, go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. So things to consider when we're looking at the calendar. There is state policy that governs school calendars. There is guidance set from the state on how to set school calendars and all of the criteria that it has to meet. And then our Office of Finance timelines that we have to make sure we work within as well for everyone's pay. So I'm going to stick to the facts, as they would say. These are just simply the 4 calendars that were submitted, and I'm going to state a few of the facts for each. So this is sample A, and some facts of it, just simply start and end time. We've got a August 12th and ending June 3rd. The first semester ending January 13th. In this, you'll see, if you can tell what the OS days are, the light pink days. They will be with breaks, and then a few at the end. And then for graduation, the graduation date is on this one, it had it as May 21st, but it could actually be, it could be after May 21st, but on this one they put that it was May 25th, and it allows for a longer winter break. So those are some facts about Calendar A. Calendar B starts the same day, August 12th, but this one has it ending June 6th. The first semester they had marked to end January the 8th. The OS days, if you can possibly see, are scattered through a little bit more in February, March, and April to butt up against them like a longer weekend or to help compensate a day of break. The graduation can be May 23rd or after. They didn't indicate what it was, but we have to follow that guidance. It has to be May 23rd or after, and it also has a longer winter break.
Carla, when you say longer winter break, what? Do you have them?
So,
Christmas,
yes, it's Christmas. We're looking at extending until, not coming back until January the 6th.
Okay.
So those first,
Yeah, the first 2 are both like 2 weeks and a day.
yeah.
Okay.
And then you'll see a sample that has a shorter.
now, when you say ending, is that like June 6th, that's not what the kids go to?
The
or-
last day for teachers.
Right.
Yeah, so first day to last day is 200-day
Right.
teacher. You'll see when it starts right after the first blue days, basically. The first white one after the blue one would be the first one for kids.
Okay.
And if you can take a closer look when you pull them up, all of those dates are set at the bottom in the left-hand box. You can actually see the date for the first employment, the first in instructional, first day for students, and all of those are dictated out. All right. See, this is sample C. Very similar to the previous, but it does start on August 16th, so this one is a few days later than the first two, which pushes the ending to June 12th. First semester is being marked as ending January 9th, and in this case, graduation has to be June 2nd or after. And then it also has a longer winter break. The OS days are more scattered throughout the second semester. Sample D. Sample D begins back like the first few that were August 12th, ending on June 2nd. This one had first semester ending December 20th. That's an ending of first semester before Christmas break. The OS days are with, a few are with the breaks and then at the end. Graduation is proposed to be the 18th, but it has to be the May 16th or after. And there's fewer of the O days in this calendar. If you see, I'm going to walk away over here and point to it. In this box, it tells you the total OS. That means how many days before we can get those 200 days in, how many days are we taking off between the beginning and end that aren't counted in the 200 days? So that's kind of the only way you can have a shorter calendar year, so to speak. It makes it a longer year if you have the more O days you have. Those are the orange. All right. Do we have any other questions?
Well, let me go into recess, and then we can ask people in the crowd, everybody can ask questions. So this time I'll entertain a motion to enter into a recess for the public hearing of the school calendar.
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we have motion to enter into recess for public hearing for the 24-25 school calendar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, now, any questions? Crowd, anybody?
So do any of these give us a problem at the beginning of the school year? I know we run into before where like it affected pay or...
We made sure that there was one submitted that did have a problem, and we asked them to correct it and resubmit, and
So
they
these
did.
are all okay?
So these are all, yes.
Yeah,
These have
'cause
all,
no one's going to vote to miss a paycheck. So to give that calendar its ample due, as Carla said, we did have one submit that didn't meet that criteria, and we took it back to them and suggested that they revise it, and they did.
Okay.
and I should have mentioned at the beginning as well, they all four meet the criteria to be a valid, approved by the state calendar.
And there was no work done on the calendar this year by the legislators. The calendar is one thing you never heard mentioned.
Not that I know
So
of.
it'll all be good. There's nothing that's coming up, so. Any questions? If not, we'll go back and move
So
on.
I'll quickly say out there to the public that these are going to go up on the county website tomorrow, as well as a forum for any public comment on any of the calendars that we will be bringing back to the board at our next meeting. And typically, the process that we have done is we have put this out to the staff for them to vote on all of these. And then at our second public hearing, we show the two top scorers to the board. And then after that second public hearing, we've put the top 2 calendars out for a final vote of staff to select the calendar.
Has anyone looked at any pedagogical differences in the calendars?
Look at what?
Any pedagogical differences in the calendars? For instance, if it's gonna, one calendar will be better for learning versus another by where the breaks are. For instance, ending the semester before Christmas break
Yeah, D's the only one that does
might
that.
have a higher learning value than stretching that over a long period. I'm wondering if anyone has looked into that yet.
I think everyone probably has their opinions of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly have my opinion of it, but I think that's what is up to staff, you know, and then the board, as they approve it, is to take those things into consideration.
Has anyone mentioned that in previous calendar votes?
Yeah, we've always, I was always under the mindset, I always would like to see the semester in before break because I think it makes it a better package. And there are times that calendar would work and sometimes it wouldn't. The thing we have to also remember about the calendar, and probably the biggest thing about the calendar, is that it is the work calendar, okay, for our employees, as much as it is an academic. Maybe more so, it's a work calendar for our employees than it is an academic calendar for our students. It is what sets their work terms based upon the hundreds of rules that the states have to do it. So I understand what you're saying, Mr. Sherlock.
Is one
but-
going to bring
yeah.
a better result
Yeah.
academically for our students than the others? Which is how I would be looking at it.
12 of one does another. Yeah. Okay, at this time, though, then we will entertain a motion to return to regular session.
So moved.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, we have motion to return to regular session. All in favor say aye. Aye. Aye, opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, we're down to our agenda. Let me scroll back up here, guys, real quick and get up. Thank you, Carla. I did that for many years. It's at times no fun. Okay, approval of the minutes. Need a motion to approve the February 27th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Any comments, corrections, concerns? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the February 27th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Finance, need a motion to approve the payment of invoices in the amount of $161,425.53.
So moved.
Mr. McCown.
Okay, expenditures for your consideration this evening consists of 4 runs. The first on 2/27/2024, totaling $2,041.37. Noteworthy in this is PEIA retiree insurance. The next run on 3/6/2024, totaling $42,392.64. Noteworthy in this is utility payments. Also, on 3/6/2024, totaling $71,872.17. Noteworthy on this is Gordon Foods for $59,488.25, and Harris Oil for diesel fuel in the amount of $10,779.13. And the final run, also on 3/6/2024, totaling $45,119.35. Noteworthy in this is $7,429.34. This is our bus software that allows us real-time tracking and access to the camera systems on the bus, and Riverside Insights in the amount of $5,915.27 for special ed testing materials. All of these invoices total $161,425.53.
Any questions? Here none, we have a motion to approve the payment of invoices in the amount of $161,425.53. All in favor say aye. Aye, opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, we have no supplements tonight, no transfers, so we're down to schedule of proposed levy rates. Do I have a motion to approve the schedule of proposed levy rates?
So moved.
And I'm assuming Karen's going to do this for us?
I'm happy to say yes. Mrs. Cummings
All
can
right.
field this one.
She's got her glasses.
All right, I've got my little glasses so I can see all these tiny numbers. Yeah, this is an exciting board meeting. Numbers everywhere. I love it. All right, so let's get into the levy order and rate sheet. So within your submittal that was sent to you of documentation, you have the actual scheduled proposed levy rates. In addition to that, you have the assessed valuations as presented to the board from the assessor, Keith Wilson. And then also I did a comparison schedule for you as well. And I believe it has 6 years worth of information on it that just kind of shows you how the assessed values have changed and how that correlates back into actual tax collections overall. So on your schedule of proposed levy rates, let's talk about assessed valuations. Overall, they increased $7.7 million. Now that's in assessed valuations. Now in terms of actual expected collections, between the general and the excess levies, both of those combined together, we're expecting about $3.4 million in net tax collections. And that's up about $106,000 from last year, or the year that we're in right now, what we're expecting. For your current expense levy, this rate is set by the state, the legislature. It has been unchanged for many years now. So it starts out at 19.4 cents per each $100 of assessed valuation. So that, from that stated rate, we're expecting about $1.6 million in general expense levy tax collections. And that's an increase of about $36,000 from the prior year. Now this is what goes into the state aid calculation, the 10-step formula that the West Virginia Department of Education does to determine how much they're going to send to us. So this is what they determine is our local share. So this is what they use to determine that number. And they take 85% of that in that calculation. So we're left with 15% of this number. Now on the excess levy, the county gets 100% of the money that's derived from it. And we're very fortunate to have that here. The maximum rate that's allowed by state code is 22.95 cents per $100 in valuation. We are at an approved 90% levy, so that's going to be at 20.66 cents per $100 in valuation. So we're expecting about $1.7 million in net tax collections from our excess levy, and that's an increase of about $70,000 from the prior year. So as you discussed earlier with your extension services, anything that's extra over what the levy originally stated, we have a stipulation in there that allows us to distribute amongst the allowed levy call, those allowable expenditures, that excess money. So we start with an expected amount of collections, and if actual exceeds that, as long as it's within the permitted levy calls, then it can be spent on that. So, and you can see here that we're expecting $70,000 more than last year.
I'm sorry, Karen, how much?
$70,000.
70?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's where we stand right now. I have to send this off to the state tax department for they actually look at it and make sure that I've did all my calculations correct. So this meeting will stand in recess at the end. Got that, Mr. Metz? Recess at the end?
Recess.
Yes. And then we adjourn or take this back up on the third Tuesday in April, and then that's when we actually get the official confirmation that my rates are correct as I've calculated, and then we'll actually lay the levy at that point in time. So that's it in a nutshell. Mr. Stewart here, he was asking about tax collections, and they're actually about 20% of your budget. So, and then state aid, I found my schedule. I had it with me today. 45% is actually in state aid.
Then the rest is made up of grants and things of that nature that come in.
So Karen, just so I have it clear in my mind,
Yes,
that through our excess levy, it looks like we'll have $70,000, give or take,
correct,
that is unencumbered at this time.
correct.
Okay.
So you can choose where to put it, as a board. In absence of that, I do it based upon need. Keep in mind that we do have a high textbook adoption year coming in, so we will be wanting to devote Step 7 monies as well as some excess levy monies to that purpose.
But this would give us, if the board so chooses to help out with
Yes.
the 4-H, this would give us some funds
Yes.
to do that with.
Yes, that is a stated purpose.
Yeah. Okay. Better than being 70,000 short, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm very pleased to see that it's another increase. Yeah.
If the levy rate goes up, does that change our funding from other pots of money from the state?
If the levy goes up, no, it does not. The excess levy,
If the excess levy goes up, does that change our funding from the state?
no, it does not.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is truly the icing on the top. So, yeah, and not all county boards have an excess levy, and we are most fortunate to have it.
This is our citizens being good to our
Absolutely.
system.
Because just right next door in Roane County, they are fundraising for every bus driver trip that's taken. That's athletics, that's FFA, FBLA, all of those. All of those groups have to fundraise for every single trip that's taken, as well as paying for the expenses of the trip in addition to that. And, that's one allowable component within our excess levy is to fund for those trips for those kids. So that's wonderful.
Is health services, student health services within our levy?
Health services is not within our levy. Health services is covered within Step 5 of the funding formula. And if you look at the funding formula, I don't know if you want me to digress or not, but if you look at Step 5 of the funding formula, we're actually under in personnel that's allowed. I don't think I have that with me, but I think it's like 1 point something, but they don't penalize us on Step 5 for being under, so we're still getting those monies for that position. So, I mean, that's something else to explore, so.
Any other questions of Karen for the schedule of proposed levy rates? Okay. Here are none. We have a motion to approve the schedule of proposed levy rates as presented by Mrs. Cummins. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, now I need a motion to appoint Karen Cummins as treasurer of Fort County Schools. Any questions, comments? Mr. County, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think there are many treasurer positions vacant right now, and it just makes us that much more fortunate to have a very good treasurer and who's been here for some time. So appreciate you and all the work that you do, and happy bring to the board for them to appoint you as treasurer once again.
Thank you.
I always wanted to vote no on this, but I don't have the guts. I'm just teasing. Okay, so we have a motion to appoint Karen Cummins as treasurer of Fort County Schools. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, we're down to personnel matters, and we have no resignations or leave of absences, which is a good thing. And employment, we do have an employment. Need a motion to approve Robert O'Reilly as substitute teacher effective for 24-25 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. McCown.
So Mr. Riley reached out not too long ago. He and his wife are going to be relocating back to the area, and retired person interested in coming to sub for us. So he has completed everything he needs to be fully certified to substitute teach, and all that information was in your packet. So he would be one board, and his certification begins July 1. So for next year, and that was his that was his intention to be able to sub for us next year.
Yeah, he lives out Hales Lane and down the road from Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, I recognize that address right
I
away.
did too. I saw that because that's my son's address. And it's like, who lives down, because there's only like 2 houses down through there, 3 houses, but that's who it is. Okay, any other questions, comments? Hear none, we have motion to approve Robert Riley as substitute teacher effective for 24-25 school year. All in favor say aye. Aye, opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, we need a motion to repeal and replace policy 1, or I'm sorry, it's not 1, it's I-06, promotion, retention, and graduation requirement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. McCown.
Okay, so we would, when it goes back, we want to place this on comment. This is new, and I printed a hard copy for everybody. We would be asking the board to place this on comments, public comment.
Okay, so this is actually for public comment.
Yes. And the state has revised their policy, and our policy was then out of date and needed to be revised. And Mrs. Brown is here and has been working on that policy, and she started to revise it, and then the red strikes got so much, she threw her hands up one day and said, I think it would be easier for us to just start from scratch and repeal and replace it in its entirety. And so that is what I'm bringing to you for your consideration and to place on public comment. But again, our current policy is not in line with the revisions that the state made, and this would bring us up to speed and in compliance with state policy.
Who made that last motion on this one? Would you reform your motion then, or your,
Yes, yeah. to
for
stay
public comment for 20 days? Okay,
How long?
20 days.
20 days?
That's our
Is it 20?
usual.
Yeah.
I'm right on that.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Everybody looked at me, I thought, well, shoot, I might have pulled that out from nowhere. Okay. Carla, you want to hit just highlights of what is maybe different, is that?
Well, a couple things. One big one is the graduation.
You okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I should ask Mr. McCowan if it was okay if you did.
Yeah,
that.
please, Carla. So give us the greatest hits of what the state has changed and what we updated.
Okay, the graduation credits are going to increase to 23. Then just some of the language wasn't in line with some of the things in 2510, so it's just, just some of the language has been updated. I did also work with, on page 2, the high school. I met with Mr. Myers and Mrs. Smith about the credits it takes to make it more clear what is it to be a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So kind of spell that a little bit better. And House Bill 3035, Third Grade Success Act. You'll see that at the bottom of page 3. So we wanted to make sure we included the fact that beginning in July 1, 2026, we have to follow that new West Virginia code for students being retained at the end of 3rd grade. We just busted at that because there's a lot of ifs, ands, buts, or ors, but we have to follow what code says anyway, so it just refers to that code there at the bottom of page 3. And then on page 4, the dual credit, again, I worked with Mr. Myers and Mrs. Smith on looking at our dual credit policy and making sure that that was very defined. There were some stipulations that the state had on what our policy has to be and how we have to submit that and have that approved by the state, so we updated that as well.
Okay, now see this repeal and replaces both of them, the I-10 and the I-06. Okay.
Yeah, we'll ask for, after this is done, then we'll ask for the dual credit policy to go away. We just
Okay.
we repeal it once this is passed.
And you say the graduation requirements went up,
Yes,
and
23, there's a personal finance
Okay, it's a mandated that took it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that in here? Because I'm missing that somewhere. Does it say 20?
Okay, so here's what I did. Wait a minute.
Okay.
On page 2,
Okay.
second paragraph. Just so we don't have to keep changing it every time the state does. That second paragraph, second sentence.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
As said by policy 2510.
Yep.
Okay, so that way.
Whatever
we
they
know
say it is,
we
we're,
have- Yes.
yeah.
Because right now we are staying in line with the same exact number as the state requires.
Okay.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. McCown or
Yep. So, Mr.
Carla?
McCown,
Mrs. Brown?
so for elementary school, and I'm looking at page 1, the second item here, second paragraph. If a student doesn't pass one of the 4 classes in 3 through 5, they can still be promoted to the next grade. Is that correct?
That has been our policy.
That's still but if they fail 2 or more, is it that they may repeat or they shall repeat that grade?
It's May, so there's other circumstances that need to be taken into consideration with that, for that not to be a shall, and one of those would be, has the student been retained before? Because if you've retained a student already, and then you retain them again, the percentage of likelihood that they graduate just drops to near zero. So anytime that there's a possible retention, that committee of teachers and parents meet and discuss that and consider that on a case-by-case basis. The exception to that is going to be when House Bill 3035 goes into effect, the Third Grade Success Act, and with the provisions in there, I think there's a exception for students with IEPs, but that is if you don't meet that criteria to be promoted, you must go to summer school, and then if you don't do that, then I think the language is shall.
But pending that, it's still May.
Correct.
Yes.
And if- okay.
But this is going out on comment. Okay, so Ms. Sherlock, you are welcome, encouraged, if you have those comments, to make them in writing, and they'll come through, and, yeah.
So again, for anybody out there, this policy is going to go up on our website under policies open for public comment, and there will be a form there to fill out. If you want to make comment, that will be on the website as well for you to review the policy and make any comments that you wish.
Okay, any other questions? Hear none, we have a motion to put policy I-06, promotion, retention, and graduation requirements out for public comment for 20 days. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, need a motion to abolish the school improvement specialist Work County Primary Center extracurricular contract for the 24-25 school year. So moved. Mr. McCown.
Okay, to kind of make RIF and transfer first season a little abbreviated, this is what Ms. Emerson resigned from the last time, an extracurricular contract that she held. A copy of that posting was in your packet, and I'm asking, that is now vacant since she resigned from it, and I'm asking you to abolish that as it is no longer needed moving forward.
Any questions? Hear none, we have a motion to abolish the school improvement specialist for Work County Primary Center extracurricular contract for the 24-25 school year. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. And now we need a motion to authorize assistant softball coach for Work County High School.
So moved.
Mr. McCown.
Okay, so they did not initially ask for one, but the email from Athletic Director, Mr. Cheeseman, is in your packet that they have requested that we authorize an additional assistant softball coach at the high school, and I'm bringing that to you for your consideration this evening.
Any questions? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve authorized assistant softball coach for Worth County High School. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay, we're down to board concerns, and we'll start with Mr. Love.
Just a reminder that the next meeting's March 21st.
Next Thursday.
I mean, that would be an easy one to mess up.
Real easy.
Yes.
Say
That's
that.
all.
Mr. Stewart.
I have one. After we added to have 2 assistant coaches, there's been some confusion whether there would be volunteer coaches, that sort of thing, what are their requirements if they are. I don't think we've really set down any rules on that.
So I think that, and if it's not the will of the board for that, you correct me, but I think the intent of adding an additional assistant coach for those sports that needed it and wanted it was to limit our liability of having an unpaid volunteer coach. I think the sports need people to volunteer and they need people to help. I think the issue is in that label of coach. I think we have hired those people and we've put additional paid people in there. I think that being said, we've got paid staff in there. I think the need for volunteer lay coaches would be lessened by us putting the paid people in there. I have no problem with folks that want to volunteer and help, but I don't see them sitting on the bench coaching kids in a game. They may be helping in some other capacity.
Mr. McCann, how about that we do this, okay? And because I'm getting questions also, okay? And some of the comments I made here at board meeting or two garnered a little bit of, I guess, discussion. How about April 23rd, if you would, the regular board meeting, that we put that on there as a discussion item. There will be no action on it, but it'll be discussion item so that, because I tend to agree with Mr. Stewart that we need to maybe put something, not need to maybe, we need to put something down in writing exactly what we mean by that, okay? So that each of the schools know what we're saying. Because at the moment, it's sort of different by school, different by sport, and lay out a policy of what we mean. So if we can have a discussion, and that way it's noticed, if we have coaches, principals, so we'll give us a chance to talk to principals, athletic directors. If we have people out there, they can come and we can have this discussion about what we mean by that. But I think it is time to clean it up and actually put it in writing.
No problem with
What
that.
we need to do, okay?
That was April 23rd?
Yeah, let's do that April 23rd. Because I think on the April 9th we're going to have a discussion about what Mr. Sherlock brought up last time, the security.
issues.
So that'll give us that, and then this on 23rd, if that suits board members. Sound like a plan? Yeah. Okay. Ms. Young?
I'm good.
Ms. Sherlock? I'm good. Okay, I don't have much, just a couple of things. Mr. McCown, I'd sort of like if we could get maybe Mrs. Cummins to do a mini budget workshop where we're getting before budget, but we're, over halfway into the school, that maybe she could just tell us where we sit, okay, as far as our funds and our expenditures. You get what I'm saying?
So not like a full-blown
Not a
budget
full-blown.
presentation, just
I don't want to put you through a full blown.
Okay. Because just as of today, I just got the state salary schedules that help me formulate, everyone's predicted salaries for next year with the proposed pay raises in it. So I'm just now trying to
Karen,
put all
could
that
we do
together.
that maybe
so.
on the 23rd of April?
Yeah.
Could you, or do you need more time than that?
Yeah. I can probably do that. Yeah.
Nothing, I don't know about you guys. I'd just like to sort of know, because we've had, Mrs. Goff ask about a person, okay? And it's
Sure.
easy to say, yeah, we want to get you a person, Kelly, which I said. But the reality is, can we get that person? And we had our 4-H person, they do good things with our kids. You know, so maybe just where we're sitting, you know,
Okay,
how
yeah.
healthy are we, unhealthy are we?
Okay, I can give you
You good
pretty
with
good
that, Mr.
information.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Don't want to step on your toes, but sort of like to maybe hear that, okay? And the other thing, I got an email, I'm not sure if you guys got one or not, that the regional school board organization meetings have been set out. The closest one to us is Charleston. I think it's April 9th. Have they sent you registrations for that yet, Kathy? Okay, it just come out today. So I want to go to Charleston when it comes out, okay? So I don't know if they just sent that to presidents or they sent it to everybody.
No, I got it as well.
Did you get it as well? Okay. So Kathy, when the registrations come out, I'll go to the one. It's a Monday night, maybe? Starts at 5:30 and goes to 9. Is it a Monday? The 9th?
It's Monday, May 13th,
13th.
and that one is also the one that has a virtual option.
And it has a virtual option. But I think you still have to register.
Yes.
Even for the virtual option, you have to register.
Registration is due April 10th.
Okay. So anyway, Kathy, when that comes in, I would like to go, and anybody else wants to go. And that's all that I have. Ms. McCown, anything pretty good?
So last time at Board Concerns, the board asked me to reach out for some legal advice concerning the potential board vacancy and what the board can do. And interestingly enough, Rick Boothby was out of the state, so Howard Sufer himself answered that question. And he said that the current sitting board should take no action on that matter, that the vacancy isn't into effect until the stroke of midnight on June 30. That vacancy, there will be a vacancy then, and then the board can take action thereafter to fill that. He said nothing would preclude you from having discussion on the procedures that you want to do in July to do that, but he said the board should take no
Leave it
action.
alone.
This current board should take no action. With that said, the board would have 45 days to successfully appoint someone, and then if the board cannot come to a quorum to appoint a person after that 45 days has elapsed, the state superintendent would then appoint a person in that position. And that was what Howard
Yeah.
said.
Makes good sense. I mean, you know, because as Howard said, that, you know, this board right now, I mean, any one of us could resign, okay, after, if we did this, we could, so, yeah, it has, so I get it. So maybe we'll talk about maybe towards the end of May, first meeting in June, we'll have a discussion item about how we want to go about it. Okay, but no names or anything like that, just what process we want to use.
And I will reiterate, Howard said there's no set process.
Right.
That's completely up to your discretion. If you wanted, if you've got somebody willing, you could appoint them in there with a quorum of the board. Or if you want to set a process that candidates interesting come and speak to the board. I think the last time we had an appointment, that's what we did with Brent. But he said there's nothing in code that sets out what that process looks like. That's up to the discretion of the board.
You didn't say anything about the district. I mean, does it have?
So I think that
Has to be.
it has to be in the central district
Central.
because I think to meet the code, you can't have more than 2 people from any one district. And I think the way we're setting right now is 2 and 2 with nobody from the central.
Yeah, that's pretty,
Right.
that's setting code. That, you know, that can't be. Yeah, it'll have to be somebody from the central because, assuming I get elected, okay, Mr. Stewart and I are from northeast, and you guys are from southwest. So the only district that's open is the central. So they'll have to come from the central.
You
And
know what that
render-
entails?
I'm sorry, what?
The central district.
Where it goes,
How?
I tell you what, Mark, I'll send you a map.
They have a map of the
Because it doesn't, they're not straight lines. They're almost cut around somebody's house, okay? And go and they just, yeah. But basically, Central runs from like Elizabeth and a little bit outside Elizabeth this way, all the way to Creston. Okay, Creston's in Central. And then out to like some of Monday Road and a little bit of Sonoma Road. It doesn't, like Mr. Sherlock is probably pretty close to some of the Central. Yeah, where he's out there, but it sort of snakes around there and is the southwest. But there's a map.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a map. Yeah. Okay, anything else for the good?
Yep, good.
Hear nothing. I will entertain a motion to adjourn, or to recess.
Reset.
To recess.